Hi there, Cheryl here, and we're going to be making this Father's Day card today. Or, it could be a masculine card of pretty much any kind. I'm using the stamp set A Good Man, and now this isn't going to be available until June 4th, I believe it is. I'll check that and make sure I put that down below. But it's got all these great stamps in it, and we're going to be using this one right here, the father carrying the little boy on his shoulders, and then also I'm going to use this one where the father's standing holding the little girl on his hip, and the I Grew Up Loved stamp, and the being a good dad starts with being a good man, and the heart. So we're going to be using quite a few of these out of here. And so I'll be using my Stamparatus. I have that right here. The papers we used are, I used watercolor paper. And let me grab my watercolor paper and show you which one I like. I like the Fabriano, and this is a Studio Watercolor hot press. That means it's smooth. It's not all bumpy like the regular papers are. And this is 140 pounds and 11 by 14. So this is a very heavy, sturdy watercolor paper. So that's what I used for this piece right here, and that I have actually two of them here. And they're, let me grab a ruler. They're 2 3/4 by 3 3/4. So I have two of those, one for each of the ones I'm going to show you. And actually, I'm going to show you two different ways to get a watercolor look. And then I have just another little square here that I'm going to be cutting out the I Grew Up Loved circle with the hearts in the background for on the front of the card. Then, as our mat for the front, this is Old Olive, and this is 3 3/4 by 5. So we'll be doing some embossing and that special watermark technique on there to emphasize our leaves. And then I have a piece of very vanilla for the inside. This is 3 3/4 by 5. That will go on the inside of our card. And then our card base is a 5.5 by 4 1/4 inch card. So it's 4 1/4 by 11 and then scored and folded at 5.5 inches. No, I did that wrong. It's it's 5.5 by 8.5, scored and folded at 4 1/4. Okay, so I already showed you this. This is the embossing folder we'll be using as the layering leaves, and with that we'll be using our VersaMark ink, and I have my embossing buddy here with it. We will not be using that. So those go together. And then we have our circle Framelits dies. Let me get my circle out that I used, and that was this one right here. So that's the 1, 2, 3rd largest circle die. So where can I put that? I'll put that up here. Then I can put this away. This is the layering circles Framelits. And then from the Heartfelt Creations Thank You Sentiments, there's a little tiny Happy Father's Day stamp. If you have one from another set that you'd like to use, then by all means use that. But that's all we're using from this. And let me get that out. And I'll put that right there with the die. Okay, so to do our watercoloring techniques for the one that I'm going to do that's exactly like this, or close to this, because you never get it exactly, but this one was done with actual watercolors. I used the Prima Confections. It's the Tropicals. If you were thinking about trying your hand at watercoloring, this is a lovely little set to get. It's under $20. I got the Classics one also, and there are the colors in the Classics. This is the Tropicals, and it opens up like this. Quite nice. I have a magnetic board in my craft studio here, so I glued magnets to the back of them, and I store them right on my, I call it my bling board. It's actually two of those magnetic white boards. So these go right on there, and I'll be using the Tropicals one today. I'll be using the number 24. They don't give you names. I'll be using 24 and 15. So they're not professional quality artists' paints. I don't know what their color fastness is, but if you want to dip your toe in and try some watercoloring, it's quite a nice little set for under $20 on Amazon. If I think about it, I'll put this, I should write it down, but if I think about it, I'll put this on my blog and put a link to these sets. They're magnetized. I only need this one, so I'll put the other one away. The ribbon I used on the card is this ribbon I got quite a while ago for free when Stampin' Up! Had their celebration going on. Maybe last year, maybe the year before, I don't know, but I still had some left, and so I used it. So unless you happen to have it, you're not going to match this ribbon. However, if you go in your craft stores or wherever, you may find other ribbons. I think I just pulled some from my stash, and any of these would work nice. I'm not using glitter on the card because I'm going to give it to my son-in-law. I have my grandson give it to my son-in-law, and he doesn't like glitter. It gives him the creeps. So, because we're watercoloring, I have a paintbrush. This is this silver black velvet paintbrush. I believe I got this in a set. This is the number 8 round. Any decent watercolor brush will work. Even not so great a watercolor brush will work for this, what we're doing today. I have paper towel. I have water, because you need water for watercolors. Then, on the little girl one, I'm going to do a watercolor look with the Stampin' Up! Dye-based inks. I'm going to use Pacific Point, Crumb Cake, and then Petal Pink. I'll need my corner rounder for rounding corners, and to stamp the images that we're going to watercolor, I'm using from scrapbook.com. It's the hybrid ink pad. I found these are nice for watercolor when you want to watercolor an image, or you can use it with your alcohol markers. Right? Nice. You can use it for either one. They when they dry, they dry. That's it. They don't reactivate with water or the alcohol, obviously. So this is the dark chocolate from their wood group. It's wood number 4. And then to stamp my hearts, I had the set of these. They come in sets. You can get them in sets of 3 or singly. But I got Driftwood wood number 1 because I had the set, and I know those, because they're in the set, they'll coordinate nicely. I have scissors. I have some craft foam. I only need a little piece. And I have a piece of thin cardboard from some packaging. I'll use this to pop up our image on the front, and then this will be used. It's just a little bit thicker than the cardboard, so this will pop up our I grew up loved little sentiment on the front. Let's see, do I have anything else? Of course, I'll be using my Big Shot, and I think that's it. Yeah. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I'm going to stamp my images on my watercolor paper. So let me get that out and dig that out from underneath everything here. And that's where my Stamparatus comes in. I just love these stamping platforms. I have a Misty. I have the small one. I have one of the Tim Holtz ones. But when I got my Stamparatus, I found myself never using them. So I've put them aside. And they're just here. I don't know what I'm going to do with them. I guess I don't know. I hate to throw things like that away. Okay, so I'm going to stamp the father with the little girl image. Let's see here. How will that go? That'll go kind of like that. Get that. Try to get it centered. And because it's a rubber stamp, I'm going to take out my black mat. I still have this little white piece of craft foam in here. It just gives me a nicer impression. So I'll ink that up with the dark chocolate. Starting out with these because I want to give these stamps time to dry before I go adding water to them. That's the first time I've used this stamp, so we'll see how that comes out. Sometimes when you first use it, it doesn't always come out very nicely. Oh, but it did. We got a pretty nice impression. Oh, maybe a little bit more just in the middle. So I'm just going to go back and just dab some ink on the middle part of that stamp. There we go. There. That's nice. So I'll put that aside. Let me get the other one here and get this out. Oh, find a place to put it. There we go. I'll put it over there. Because that's all inky. Okay, and now I'll do this one. Yeah, these stamping platforms, they just make everything so easy. Now, I could never have lined that up again and re-inked and lined it up and stamped it again if I didn't have a stamping platform. I've even seen some videos that teach you how to make your own. I don't know how good they are, but there. Oh, that one looks fine. I don't even have to do that one a second time. So we'll put them there to dry. Let me get that off. Put that somewhere until I have a chance to clean it. Okay, now I want to stamp my sentiment on the inside And let's see, where did my piece of Very Vanilla go? Here we go. There's my Very Vanilla. And I'll put this where I think I need it. And you'll notice I'm not putting both stamps on at the same time. This is because the Stampin' Up! Cling stamps and the Heartfelt Creation stamp sets are not the same thickness. Okay, now I'm going to check this. You know, it's a good thing I did this because you know what? I was going to stamp this upside down. Wouldn't that have been funny? That would have been a good joke on me, wouldn't it? Okay. So I'm lining it up side to side and up towards the top a little bit because remember we have to have another room for another stamp there, and then of course the place to sign it. Okay, so now I'll use the grid to make sure that my printing is straight. I'm going to ink that up too with this chocolate. Yeah, I got these ink pads to try them out, and I like them. My greens I'm having a problem with. I think they may just be too inky because these were very juicy pads. Okay, that looks pretty good. So I can take this little stamp here, put that aside with all my other inky ones, and then I'll get my Happy Father's Day. Now make sure that I'm putting it right side up. I'm going to put that right below this one. And okay, so I have it side to side how I want it. I'm going to pick that up. Oh, and that's way off. So I have to adjust this. There we go. I didn't have to take my lid off to see this one. I could see this one right off. Okay. So now I'll ink that. One, two, three. Okay, that looks pretty good, except for Day could use a little more ink, I think. Alright, there we go. So that's done. Get that stamp off of there and out of here. Then I need my little square of paper. I'm going to put that right inside here because that'll give me a nice squishy base here to stamp. And I'm just going to hand stamp the You I Grew Up Loved. And straight down. 1, 2, 3. Straight up. There. See, this one's kind of juicy too, but not nearly as much as my greens were. So I can close that up, and then I'll get my driftwood out, and I'm going to just randomly stamp hearts all over and around this one. And we're going to just bring those out because when we cut it with our circle, we want to make sure that our circle is all filled in. Okay, I think that's plenty. I think that will get our circle filled. And then I'm going to add some to the inside of the card too. Okay, there. Maybe one more. Odd numbers are always nicer. There. There we go. Lots of hearts for Father's Day. So now, we've got our stamping done. And I think next I'll do my, show you what we're going to do with our VersaMark. I'll get my piece of old olive cardstock here, and where did my, there's my embossing folder, because we're running out of time. So this is a good time to do this. I'd take a break and run this through the Big Shot. I've got just about 4 minutes left here. Okay, so we're going to ink up the side that says Sizzix Stampin' Up. Okay, so this side right here, we're going to ink that up with our VersaMark. Get that ink up real nice, all over it. And I'll put my piece of cardstock in there. Carefully close that, and off to Mr. Big Shot I go with this. So we'll be back to do some watercolors. Yay! So this is what this looks like now. And can you? I don't know if you can see on the video. I can kind of see it. The background is darker because we used the VersaMark ink on the embossing folder. So it kind of brings our leaves out a little better. So, and then while I was over there, I also cut out my I grew up loved little thingy here. And I just decided I'm going to sponge around the edge a little bit. So I think I'll use the dark chocolate. And I'm not sure if this is clean, so I'll use this end of this sponge, and I'm just going to go around the edge here. I didn't do this on my original card, but I was just thinking that would be so nice just to have a little something on there. Okay, so now let's do some watercoloring. And I'll start out with the one with the little boy on it and my Prima Confections. Here. It's got a nice little palette here too. A lovely little set if you want to take your watercoloring with you somewhere. And I've got my paper towel, my water, and my watercolors. I'm going to do the background first. So I'll wet my brush here, and I'm going to just wet the background. We're going to do it's called a wet in wet, if you care to know the technical terms. A little bit right in there. And I'm not going right up to the image. Just we want it kind of painter. I mean, that's want it kind of painterly, and that's kind of the whole thought behind doing this with watercolors. So I get a little bit more water on my brush and pick up some of the pigment, and I can bring that down here if I want. This is nice too if you want to mix colors. Okay, so now I've got some blue there. I'm just going to start, just put it in there. It's not a wash. This is a wet and wet technique. There we go. And I'm just dabbing that in. Anybody can do this. Matter of fact, I was thinking about having my grandson He's 2.5. Make this card with me to give to his father. So I may do that. I have him here on Thursday, so maybe we'll have a little craft day. I know he can work. He could work the Stamparatus, and he helps me already with the Big Shot. So he likes to crank the crank on that. The other day I had him here, and while he had his nap, I was going through some of my embossing folders. He wakes up from his nap, he comes out, and he sees them. He says, "What are those?" He's so funny. And so I let him pick one out, and we went and did, and we embossed it. Okay, so now I've got some of the number 34. That was number 15. This is number 34. And that's going to go on the shirt and the pants. And we're just gonna swipe that in there, just like that. This is no big deal here. And we'll let it puddle in some places, because that's what watercolor's all about. And I rinsed my brush out again. I'm just going to take just a tiny little bit of that. I'm going to pick just a little bit of that up, and I'm going to do the father's arms, so they're not just blank. So he's got a nice little tan going there. And I'm going to do the same thing for the hair for the boy. I don't think I did that on the original. Oh, that's way too wet. That's just a tiny little space there. So we'll put, there we go. So we have just a little color in his hair. And I'll wipe this out. And that's the little boy one. See how easy this is? So simple to do. So we'll put that aside and let that dry. And we'll bring in the little girl one. Okay, so we're going to do basically the same thing, but instead of using the watercolor paints, we'll use our inks. So once again, I'll do the background, wet in wet. Okay. And I'll pick up some of that Pacific Point. Now this Pacific Point is very, very bright. So we want to, you only want a little bit of that in there. Okay, there we go. And we'll let that puddle in places. Gives us a nice bright blue background. I see some rather big puddles here on the sides. I'm going to just dab them off a little bit. Or this will take forever. Well, not forever, but it'll take a while to dry otherwise. Okay. Now, let me get my brush rinsed out good here and wiped off on my paper towel. Next, I think I'll do the Petal Pink. If I can get it open. Oh, I need to squeeze it. The new Stampin' Up stamp pads, squeeze them from the back. The old ones you squeezed from the front. But I find it's much easier to do if you squeeze these from the back. And it says it's pink, but it's really not. It's more of a peachy color. So I want my brush fairly dry for the little girl's shirt. So I'll do her shirt with this. Rinse my brush, dry it off a little bit. I'll pick up just a tiny bit of water. And this will make a nice skin tone color. It looks like she has bare feet, so I'll do her foot too. I could use just a little more color on her foot. There. Yep, and I dabbed off too much. Okay, so that's it for the Petal Pink. And then I'll use my crumb cake. I'm not sure if I have any squeezed out, so I'll give that a squeeze before I open it. And my brush is damp, it's not real wet. I'll pick up some of this. And I'll do her hair a little bit, and do his shirt, her pants, shirt sleeve. Get the shirt down there. And his pants. And his hair. Do his hair too. Okay, so there we go. Easy peasy. So I'm going to set these aside and let them dry a bit. And we'll do some work on the rest of the card. And bring this back. Oh, I need my snail. Need my snail adhesive. So we're going to put a piece of ribbon around the back here. And put this on carefully so I don't undent all that nice embossing I did on there. And get this tape. Now, get this ribbon. When, you know, you could use washi tape too. Nah, not really. It would not work well. If I can get this open, we'll be good. Okay. Now, I always save this plastic and re-wrap my ribbon with it. That way, it keeps it nice and neat and the ends don't start coming out. Alright, so I'll measure a piece here. Take my scissors. Give myself 3/4 of an inch on either side. I'll turn this around to the front. And decide where I want my ribbon to be. I'm going to have it a little over an inch from the bottom. And we'll just tuck these over, and that sticks right on that tape. So that's all set to go on the front of the card. We'll get, oh, what did I get on there? I got a little something on there. It looks like when I was watercoloring I got a little messy. Let's see. We need our Tombow glue. And I'll just put that all on the back here. I'm using the Tombow. Maybe. Looks like I had a little clog there. There we go. Pearl, stop. Oh, she's chewing on herself. This is the itchy time of year. I need to make an appointment. She needs to go have her itchy shot. So that's all lined up. It's centered in the card. Then we can come to the front, and we're going to use our Tombow on this also. I really don't like using tape if I don't have to. And we'll go right over the ribbon. That ribbon will be attached really well. It's got tape on one side and glue on the other. And then this will get centered on our card. Hey, this is pretty, isn't it? Okay, so now we're about as far as we can go without our little front pieces. I'm going to do the little girl one on this card. I'm going to take my corner rounder. You don't have to have a corner rounder. You don't have to round your corners. But I thought it just made a nice little detail on there. There we go. This is very thick, this watercolor paper, and it jammed my corner rounder here. There we go. It jammed again. There, popped up. Now we need that nice little piece of cardboard. And yes, it is scrap. It's scrap cardboard. I'm going to glue it down with the green side facing downward. So, yeah. I'll use my Tombow for that too, since I have my Tombow out and in my hand. That's ready to go on the front here. Put some more Tombow on there. And we're going to just center that on our... let's move it up a little bit, because we have to put that round circle down the bottom here. Okay. So let me get a block. Put a block on there to hold it down. And we can do our little circle. And we're just going to need it on this part of it, because the other part will overlap. And where's that little scrap I had? So I'm just going to cut kind of a circular looking, half a circle looking piece here. You see if that fits on there. Look at that, will you? That fits on there pretty good. Put some of my Tombow on there, and let me just make sure that I'm doing the right part, because we want it on this part, so it will be right on this part. Oh, I found if I hold this up in my bright light here, I can see the sentiment from the other on the other side. So I know I've got that on the right spot now. There we go. And a little more Tombow here. We're almost done. And I'm going to put that at a little bit of an angle, just for fun. And that's it. So, if there are any Stampin' Up! Products that you saw in this video that you would like to have for your very own, that would be wonderful if you used me as your demonstrator, and you can do that either through my Facebook page or my blog. I'll put the links for the Confections paints from Prima up on there, and as always, I'll have a list of all the other materials that I use down below here. If you liked my video, hit the like button. I love to see the likes. If you have any questions or comments, then leave those below too. I will get back to you. And I think that's about it. So y'all take care, stay safe, and happy stamping.